I think we'll go ahead and get started for the sake of time. I know that we were a 3:10 workshop, if I believe, so we're just a few minutes over, but we certainly want to welcome everyone, and we're very excited that of all of the different concurrent sessions that you could choose, that you decided to stop in and hear some more about the Financial Aid Action Network team. We all know that financial aid is a key indicator for whether or not a student is going to pursue higher education. And so there is a lot of work for us to be done, but we have a lot of great partners who are doing this work now. And we're excited to have you here to hear more about what we're doing currently, and hopefully recruit you all to join us with our Financial Aid Action Network team. So my name is Summer Steele, and I serve as the director of Gear Up and Upward Bound, Cal SOAP at CSUSB. It's within the Office of Pre-College Programs.
Thank you, Summer. And I'm Ernie Rios. I'm the Vice President of College Success at One Future Coachella Valley. And in my role, I oversee our scholarship initiative, aligning scholarships in the Coachella Valley and to support more students in pursuit of post-secondary, and also overseeing our regional strategies related to college enrollment and our Gents Alliance Young Men's Initiative, including our financial aid network in the region.
With that, we'd like to kind of just hear in the chat from all of you. If you could just type in the chat your name, your organization, and then maybe a favorite moment so far from today. I know Ernie shared his with Carlos already about the way he was able to queue up the actual event and really set it off for the other speakers. For me, I really enjoy, I think it's a really nice touch. All the workshops are great, but I love the nice touch of having the DJ play us through and in between. It's just, it's kind of makes it really lively for us in this virtual environment. So that would be my favorite moment so far. So again, name, organization, and where, a favorite moment so far from the conference. And with that, we'll go ahead and queue up our PowerPoint and get started.
Great, thank you, Summer. And again, thank you all for joining us for the Financial Aid Action Network team update and overview. As Summer shared, our focus as a financial aid alignment network team is to support our students again in their post-secondary pursuits, with a very specific focus on addressing the disparities in access to financial aid in the Inland Empire. So we're going to provide an overview of what the financial aid capture looks like in the Inland Empire, and then drill down for you into the work of the Financial Aid Alignment Network team, the FANT. So to start, I wanted to begin by providing an overview of the financial aid application completions in the Inland Empire. And you should all have received the link to the FANT network vision, mission, and also our tactical plan. Where we also provided some of this information. We can also we'll make this PowerPoint presentation available to you. And if you did not get that summary, please let us know. We can put that in the chat for you as well. But we wanted to start off by, again, providing that background information on our regional FAFSA completion rates in the Inland Empire. In Riverside County, we currently have a 53.38% FAFSA and DREAM Act completion rate. It's 43.93% in San Bernardino County. Across the state, as reported by the National College Attainment Network, in the state, we're looking at a 57% FAFSA completion rate, and nationally, it's 58%. I'm sure for many of you joining us today, you have a pulse on your FAFSA completion rates within your community, and we've heard about the decline in FAFSA completion rates across the country these last 2 years as a result of the pandemic. Our focus is to make sure that as we're working with our students, we're not only helping our students complete these applications and gain access to financial aid, but that we're also drilling down and looking at disparities in access to financial aid, state, federal aid, and scholarships in the community, especially amongst underrepresented groups. So one of our focus, our vision as an alignment action network team is to ensure that students have access to equitable resources as a result of institutional systematic change and a strengthened financial aid process, specifically amongst African American, Latinx, Native American students, students with disabilities, and other marginalized groups. So again, looking very specifically at how we help support underrepresented students with gaining access to financial aid resources, and looking at it from a systematic lens as well. How do we work collectively with our higher ed partners and community partners to ensure that we're aligning resources for maximum impact on our students' access to financial aid so they can get into and through post-secondary. So again, we're looking at how we help each student complete college and ensure that they're not burdened by debt, and will be economically empowered to participate in a fulfilling life and building a career in the Inland Empire. Our team strategy is to inform youth and families on the financial aid process, support high schools to adopt policies and practices to ensure financial aid knowledge and capacity, and inform policy and support advocacy related to financial aid process. Again, we want to make sure that in this collective work, that we're also looking at it from that systems level lens, making sure that we're supporting policy changes not only within the institutions, but at a state and federal level as well, and how we can help inform that policy through the work that is being led via the GIA and the Action Network teams. And in this case, very specifically, the Financial Aid Action Network team. We do this by way of our tactical plan. This is our guiding document that helps us set forth the very specific goals that we're setting forth to accomplish, and also the ways that we will measure our progress along the way. So establishing short, mid, and long-term outcomes that we can use to measure our progress towards that ultimate goal of, again, helping more students access financial aid resources, with that ultimate goal of getting our students to complete post-secondary and that they're not burdened by debt and have an opportunity for that, for upward mobility for themselves and their families. And along the way, we've again used this document with very specific strategies and goals in mind. I do want to share that while there's a lot of great strategies and opportunities for us to support our students along the way with programs and support services in the community, this process through the tactical plan and consensus building, we really drill down and focus on what are some high level strategies and goals that we want to prioritize to help us begin to chip away at some of those barriers that prevent students from, again, gaining access to the resources they need. So it's not, we don't jettison all those other opportunities or resources or strategies. They're still in motion in the community and we support them. But in this specific process with our tactical plan, we hone in very specifically on areas that we feel are going to make the biggest impact in supporting our students. And I'm going to ask Summer to share some of those with you here next as we take a deeper dive into our tactical plan and how you can get involved. Summer?
Yeah, thank you, Ernie. And thank you to everyone who responded in the chat. I see that we have just a wide range of folks, even in our small group here today, that represent both workforce, industry, college, nonprofit. So it's nice to have such an expansive group in here, because we know that it takes a village and it takes all of us aligning our work and doing things together to get to these outcomes that we're looking for. Within our tactical plan, as you notice, there are two overarching goals or two tactics that we are working towards. And the first is related to scholarship access and coordination. As Ernie mentioned, one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is make sure that students are graduating from college, not just attending college, but completing college without this huge burden of debt. A lot of students are afraid, and families are rightfully so afraid of loans. They need to understand which kinds are okay and which types require the long-term investment of those loans. We don't want them walking away with $100,000 of debt from a CSU, for instance. That, however, one of the tactics is scholarships. So if students are applying for scholarships, we want to work with the scholarship givers to see what are their practices, how are they aligning their scholarships, how are they being equitable, what are the criteria that they're setting forth, and in doing so, who is being left behind, who is being left out and not being considered when we're looking at scholarships. So one of the things that we've done this year is we've developed an assessment, or needs assessment, if you will, that aligns scholarships that we're sending out to pre-college programs and folks who mentor students in the pre-college industry, K-12 schools, industry partners, folks who award scholarships, those who advise students, so that they can complete this alignment document so that we can figure out what's being done and provide technical assistance if needed. Do this for 1 second. Provide technical assistance as needed to those who might not be awarding scholarships in an equitable manner. With that, we'll move to tactic 2. I know we just have a few minutes before Q&A. With tactic 2, this is around policy and advocacy. And actually, we can probably skip to the third one. Is the third, go to the next slide, if you will. It's not the third tactic, but the third slide. I'm going to show you one of our, this is something that came out of the policy and advocacy tactic. So recently, you may have received notice that GIA put out a call to action for the region to do 90% financial aid application completion by 2023. You may also know that there's also the governor has signed in an executive order or legislation that it's going to be a requirement, 90% FAFSA completion, by 2026 by GIA, which is going to align this year to prepare us for next year when FAFSA and financial aid or California DREAM Act application becomes a requirement for high school completion. And so we're hoping that this call to action this year is going to assist school districts in part of that policy and advocacy, if you will, in reaching. So we have districts we know that are under 50%. Our policy and advocacy group want to take the time to do some outreach to those districts, to connect them to training resources and make sure that they're ready so that we're not doing such a heavy lift next year when it becomes a requirement. And we can move to the next slide. That being said, we can't do it without your support and without all of you. We'd like to officially and formally invite you to join our Financial Aid Action Network team. We meet the first Wednesday of every month. We're hopeful that we have your information and that if you are a scholarship giver or someone who advises students on scholarships, that you would consider completing that survey or forwarding it to others who do complete surveys or advise students when it comes to surveys. We are wanting to align those regional scholarships and financial aid support services. So those of you who are in this virtual space with us today, we know that you're here for a reason, because you care about the financial and economic well-being of our students. And we want to support college attainment policy and advocacy. So if this sounds like something that you want to do, we are like the Uncle Sam, we want you. We want you to join our team and to really just help us, reach our goal of ensuring that college is an affordable option for all students in our region. And with that, we'll turn it over to some questions and answers. So we can probably, there we go. I like the gallery view. Any questions about maybe what we're doing, how we're doing it, or how you can get involved? Maybe Ida, I can ask you, is there anything that perhaps we missed, since Ida is our right hand in from GIA in the Financial Aid Action Network team?
No, you guys covered everything. I apologize, a couple minutes had technological issues, but I could not be more proud of all our aunts, and this aunt is just doing amazing work, and it's not cut, dry work, right? It's work that is really focusing on, like Summer said, and Ernie echoed, like, it's not just getting students to college. So it's more than, creating a college going culture, but really getting them in, through, and out of college, and poising them in a position towards success in our region. So, it's when we say financial aid, it's not just, oh, here's FAFSA. It's, what does that really mean? And one of the things, and maybe I missed this at the beginning, is the holistic component of this work is the only thing I would add. As a group, we've really talked about and discussed that it's more than the FAFSA. It's more than getting a scholarship. It's what happens around those activities that really creates the success. And so the holistic approach of a community gathering for FAFSA completion. So, Summer and I have talked, like, if you have a student that walks in and you work at 7-Eleven and he's wearing, like, I don't know, I live in New Cyprus, like Thunderbirds, senior 2021, that person behind the register could say, congratulations, you're a senior, you're graduating, like, where are you going to college? Have you done your FAFSA, right? So that is a moment of success for GIA, for the network, for the FANT. And so really just, if we leave you with anything other than our call to action, which we always have, forefront, because we can't do this work, like she said, and Ernie, said, without you, is that really always think of whatever work you do in a holistic approach. Like, it takes more than just a paper. It takes more than just a checklist. The success in the mentorship, in those, village conversations about where are you going to college? How long have you been in college? How many units are you completed? Where are you transferring to? And, have you considered scholarships? So, if you leave with anything today, it is that, really own that, and we need your change agent leadership in helping those around you, including your communities and families and friends, to take that approach that college success, student and economical success, is part of all of us. And we firmly believe that with this work, we are chipping away at that and creating the framework to empower our communities. So grateful for all those that came today, those that hopefully will engage, and of course for all those who are already, in the trenches doing this work every month. So thank you.
Absolutely. One item as well that I think is important to touch on, and thank you for that, Ida, is something that Carlos, you shared at the beginning of the conference, is how critical it is to use the data to guide, our regional strategies and decision making, and that's core to the work that the financial aid alignment network team is doing, especially around, the alignment of scholarships as a key strategy. One, we look at it from the lens of aligning resources so we can support more students. And as Summer shared, a key component of that is also ensuring that we're collecting the data to help inform regional partners around how they could be more effective in supporting students with the available resources they have. And that includes our post-secondary partners as well, how we could work hand in hand with our partners to inform how we maximize the use of state, federal funds, and how we support our students in covering that financial need gap to get more of our students into and through college. And that's been something that has been key for the FANT as we've been gauging what are the scholarship giving trends in the Inland Empire, what are the wraparound supports, those holistic supports that are provided to students to ensure their successful transition into post-secondary. Using that data to help inform regional decision making is critical, and that's been something that our partners are bringing to the table, in their experiences throughout the Inland Empire. In the Coachella Valley, that's been a key focus of our work, and thanks to the College Futures Foundation for supporting the scholarship initiative. to bring those partners together. We're drawing up from those experiences, just as several of our community partners are. But the key there as well is using the data. How do we use that data to inform decision making?
We have a question from Sean Whalen that says, curious how much intersection we are engaging on with financial aid officers at the campuses, and if so, what type of conversations we're having around planning for students and the transfer process. So yeah, there already is financial aid administrators and directors attending the FAT, and we have even the U.S. Department of Ed attending these sessions, which is just amazing partnership. But to your point, Sean, this last 60 days, a lot of my work with support of an intern, we've done a lot of mapping process, because we know that not everybody that needs to be at the table is yet at the table. And so, GIA and the ants, have gone over exponential growth in the last 12 months, all missed all the chaos that we're all facing. And so we know and have identified that there's still individuals that need to be at the forefront of this work. So with the help of an intern, we went through all 12 community college campuses, our community partners in our 4 years, to identify, and not just the financial aid, but every ant, who was at the table, who was missing, based on tactics and vision and mission of the ant itself. And they've been identified. So we hope that engagement and additional invitations to start participating in the next 60 days will take place. Our first official working meeting is in October. We kick it off with this event. And so, yeah, I mean, we're continuously identifying. And I have to say, one of the successes of the ant that I am always so proud of is that when somebody leaves their position, their exit process includes an email to me or one of the GIA team members saying, hey, I had a heads up, I've moved on or whatever, here's a new person. And that to me is like, because our work is so hard to measure sometimes, but I always tell Carlos, like, that's a success, because that means that in their exit or onboarding process, GIA was part of it. And that's so important, because if we're not linked somehow, then it starts wrong or ends wrong, right? So we can't pick up where we left off. So we get those all the time, and they're so important, like continuously thinking of who needs to be at the table, who's in front, who's behind the work we do. And really what this whole convention is about is just, how do we do what we do best? How do we continue to master our craft and do it not by ourselves, but holding the hands of those that do this work with us and lift each other up? So a lot of work always to be done, but thank you. That's an amazing question. And I promise you it's always at the forefront of my day-to-day work. So thank you for asking.
I'll just, sorry to suddenly have to cough. The reason why I ask it is, this isn't just endemic issue in the Inland Empire, but you all are right at the forefront of sort of tackling the relationship of financial aid to student success. And I especially appreciate like Ernie and Kim and the work that folks at One Future, who are scholarship providers, do. But I recognize that among the biggest challenges of getting the real equity we want to see in BA completion is that so many students who are at the community college and desire a bachelor's degree, they have financial aid counselors at the community college who help them pay for community college. And until they've made the jump to the four-year institution, they don't have financial aid counselors charged with the task of helping them figure out how to pay for the 4-year. And we know from research that our foundation and our partners have done that one of the biggest reasons that 60,000 students in our state per year get really close at the community college to transfer or have already finished and don't is because they don't see a way to pay for it. And that's really not a question of there isn't a way, it's that they're not getting the kind of information that students often get coming out of high school, that there is a way to pay for it. And so just curious if you all have been tackling that issue and wanted to call that to your attention, because it's an intersegmental disconnect, right? That folks like Ernie and Kim, they have students that they're tracking all the way through, and so there is some connectivity there, and you guys have some experience in that area. But it's an issue the state could really learn from if you all have made progress.
Have you seen successful models, Sean?
I wish I had, right? Like that my point is that I think this is a systemic challenge in our state, and I don't know that anybody's doing this right. I mean, out of the gate, Ernie's heard me say this before. Most students in community college have never heard of the transfer entitlement, the Cal Grant transfer entitlement. And when I talk to students at student panels, they're often like, "What's that?" And so, there is not an apparatus to share with students for whom higher education cost is such an important driver of whether or not they choose to go. That population is particularly vulnerable to not getting the information that they need, and our state just hasn't been good at doing that. And I wish I had great models to share with you, Carlos, but it's part of the reason why I raised it with this group that has already a recognition of the importance of sending clear and direct messages that students can afford it. But that population in particular has me, I think has me in the state kind of, when you think about 60,000 or 30,000 that are fully completed annually who don't move on, that's a huge, that would fill CSU San Bernardino more than once every year.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who attended. Unfortunately, I mean, that time went really fast. We are out of time, but I do hope to see everyone at our first fans meeting. We got some chats and certainly those of you who spoke up, asked questions, or even those that are just listening that would like to learn more. One of the best things about this work is that it is work. We're not just a planning committee that kind of talks about things, but we really are trying to put things into action. To speak to what you mentioned, Sean, to try things, to pilot things, to see what's going to work for our region. And then, if other areas want to take it on and scale it, great. But our focus is the Inland Empire and really growing the talents in our region. And so we are super excited to have had you here, and we really hope to see you at our first FANT meeting.